Happy Mother's Day, Mom. When you told me a few weeks ago that you have cancer, you said, "Pray for me, but don't worry." I definitely accomplished the former. The latter is a more complicated request that requires me to ask myself some questions and is basically the subject of your Mother's Day card. On the surface, telling me not to worry when my mother, my calming and steady influence since birth, has cancer is a ridiculous request. How can I not worry when my mother, who has given and is giving so much to this world in raising 3 kids with compassion and love, service to God and others in church, and so much more, has cancer? I do believe I will be able to accomplish this ridiculous request of yours, not because of any special strength of my own, but because of you. I believe the most beautiful thing you have done and continue to do for me is not of this world, but simultaneously is the answer to any sadness this world can bring. What you have given to me is in my soul and conscience, an inner strength that no external factors of this world can take away. As my mother, the greatest gift you have given me is an identity. I am a child of God, loved beyond measure, sent to serve the world. I know this is a gift, freely given by a loving God, but let me cut to the chase why for me this gift has become an identity because of my mother. It boils down to this. It's easy for me to accept a compassionate gift from a loving God as my identity when my whole life I have had a loving mother demonstrate this type of compassion as a living, breathing example. That is the main point, but allow me to explain further. It is one thing to hear about this gift in church, but it is more personal and powerful to feel this kind of love from your mother in the dedication and self-sacrificing way you raised me. There was never one time growing up that I felt anything less than your full love and compassion. You know I am a scientist who likes to set boundary conditions and is a contrarian at heart. As such, I know more than Owen or Lisa, I like to test the limits of your love and compassion. The scientist in me said, the more I tested and stressed that love and compassion by being downright selfish and nasty at times, the less compassion I should receive, and the more strain there should be on your love for me. The contrarian in me couldn't believe that the excessive and undeserving love you gave me was completely unconditional and wouldn't reach a breaking point. Any material scientist would agree with my hypothesis. In testing capacity of a material under stress, the strain will increase until eventually it breaks. Well, I'm happy to report that my hypothesis was wrong. In fact, strange results happened. Amazingly, looking back, it was those times where I applied the most stress, where I should have expected the most strain on your love for me, the times where I deserved to feel guilt and distance from you. Those were the precise times where your love and compassion was strongest. How could I not accept love beyond measure from God when experiencing this type of love from my mother? There are many more examples of how having you as my mother gives me this identity and unlocks my potential to be the best version of myself. But I'll limit myself to a few more. It's one thing to hear Jesus say, "Love your enemies," but this ideal becomes a reality when you have a mother who I have never seen treat anybody with contempt or ill will. When somebody wrongs me, how can I not forgive them, try to understand them, and try to seek an understanding based on love, rather than traveling down a mutually destructive path based on vengeance and hate? Again, it is one thing to hear Jesus say, "Tend my sheep." But this comes to life in observing your life of service and selfless work. How can I not live a life bearing fruit for others after observing the orchard of my mother. Similarly, when Jesus gives what he calls the greatest commandment, that we are to love God and one another with all our heart, soul, and mind, I am inspired. However, the example my mother gives moves me to action. Yes, you have given me my identity as a child of God, loved beyond measure, Mom. But your overflowing motherly love has also given me guidance on how to live this greatest of commandments, ending in loving one another. Knowing God's unconditional love through Jesus' example and brought to life by my mother, I should identify all people I meet as a child of God, loved beyond measure. How can I not treat all people to the unconditional love you show me in good times and even at my worst? In the end, you have been preparing me to pray, but don't worry, my entire life. I just haven't been able to fully realize it until you requested it of me after your cancer diagnosis. So, long story short, the answer is yes, Mom.